The 18 WJTS News is back on the road. I'm Bradford Raths, and we are here at the Southern Indiana Purdue Ag Center with Jason Tower. Jason, give us an overview of what we're doing at this center.
This is one of 8 regional farms that Purdue has around the state of Indiana, and each one's a little different in what we look at. We do a lot of forestry, livestock, and grazing work, as well as have the Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab, one of 2 that's here in the state of Indiana, is located here at this facility.
So kind of give us a little history of the facility. Goes back a few years, I'm presuming.
Yeah, the farm was started in 1953, and it was actually a gift from the people in southern Indiana. The southern 40 counties all raised money, purchased the farm, donated it to the university in 1953. So we've been around for a few years.
So we just talked about the diagnostic lab. Right here behind me is the Dennis Hickey Diagnostic Lab. Just kind of talk about what's going on, what they do here.
As mentioned, the Diagnostic Lab here is one of 2 in the state, but if producers have issues with animal disease problems and things going on with their herds, there's a veterinary pathologist that works in here. The animals are brought in, they work through them to see what's causing that disease issue, and then what management techniques do those producers need then to fix that issue. But we do a lot with the poultry industry and livestock in general. Is
one more common than the other in terms of which animals visit?
Probably for our lab, we do a lot more poultry, with being here where we're at here in the county in southwest Indiana. The poultry industry is very big, but then a lot of the cattle are in the southern part of the state too, so they do a great deal of those as well.
Big diseases?
When you have it, it can be a big problem. There hasn't been a major disease outbreak or anything like that, but isolated cases, there'll be things that go through that need to be cleaned up.
We also have several animal areas here at SIPAC, and let's head down there and take a tour. After going down the road a little bit, we're now back here at the cow pasture. So Jason, just how much land do we have here?
SIPAC consists of 1,320 acres total. It's about half wooded and half pasture, like you see us standing here in front of this group of cows.
You said you actually lost a little acreage when Patoka Lake came in, is that?
Yeah, there's a few hundred acres that were border Patoka Lake that Purdue had some losses, like those folks that lived in there when the lake was built as well. Yep.
So moving along, obviously plenty of cattle back here. Let's talk about what's going on in this field.
What you see behind us is our mature cow herd. There's about 115 cows and probably 100 or so calves on the ground right now. They all calve in September and October, and they'll be grazing stockpiled forage here through the winter. The cow herd, as you can see, black baldies, but it's an Angus Simmental breeding. And then these cows are used for various grazing trials. The calves a lot of times will go up to main campus and do feedlot work up there after weaning time in the spring. So they're well utilized by researchers and graduate students alike.
So what's some of the data you guys pull from the research?
A lot of it we'll look at depending on the project. We've been doing some reproductive work with the cows, looking at some artificial insemination programs. So, that would obviously, how many cows got bred off of that project. We get into the calf work. A lot of it is, how can we get that calf from this point to a nice big ribeye steak on our table most efficiently. So we're looking at animal growth data, feed efficiency data, and different things like that.
So a final note here, how many calves do we usually have in a year?
This herd is about 190 calving cows every year. So like I said, this is a big bunch over here, and we've got another group of about 80 there. So 185 to 190 calves are born each year on the farm.
All right, so this has been the cow pasture, so to speak. Let's continue with our tour. So we've gone back down some more roads, and now we're in a slightly different area, and invasive species. So let's talk about what those are.
Those would be non-native plants that at one time were brought in for maybe a good purpose, or we thought it was a good purpose, but have since kind of gotten out of control. And in our woodlands here at SIPAC and in southern Indiana, there's several varieties that have got away from us. Multiflora rose was originally brought here to be a fence, living fence. Autumn olive, bush honeysuckle are kind of the three main things that are kind of taking over the understory of a lot of the woods. So that's preventing hardwood oak regeneration and things like that. So professional foresters have been working for years on how do we control that to help these woods regenerate, and from traditional cutting and spraying methods and things like that. And we've since gone back and looked at other things that are available, and what we've looked at here are using goats to utilize that. Goats are naturally browsers. They prefer those leaves and things, and as we turn them in, they'll just go to town and clean up from about 5 feet down to what they can reach is what they prefer.
Speaking of going to town, we look this way a little bit, and these guys are definitely going to town.
Yeah, this is an area that we just turned these goats in probably 15-20 minutes ago, and as you see them going down over the hillside there, they're going to stop and find those nice broadleaf invasive species that, as far as they're concerned, are pretty good eating, and really enjoy that.
So how long will goats typically work on one particular area before you have to move them?
It all depends on how thick the vegetation is, the number of goats and things like that. We've just completed our second year trial looking specifically at this and looking at stocking rates, how many goats per acre, and some grazing times, and from a animal standpoint and an animal manager, we kind of think, well, that's a great food source. We'd kind of like to not get rid of it, but the other side of the coin is the foresters see that as a problem in the woods, and they really want to graze it hard. So we're going to see if we can't find a happy medium to where we have that for the animals to utilize, but yet keep things from getting out of control for the woods. So, to answer your question, it depends, which we say that a lot.
And as you mentioned on the way in, we actually saw a really good before and after shot of what these goats can do.
Yeah, and we'll stop and look at that again. But it's really amazing. You go from an area you can't really see through to it's just a nice open you can walk through and do other forest management things that you need to without having to get hung up in the brush.
So as we just mentioned a moment ago, the before and after shot of what the goats do. So back here we just have the before.
Correct. What you see over my shoulder here is very typical of what we'd turn into in the multiple invasive species that we're trying to get rid of, and that's would be tough to walk through, tough to manage and things. But as we pan around and he comes around and we see what's on the other side of us, you'll notice how the woods is really opened up. Most of the understory is stripped out. So if we want to go back in there and cut vines, or we've got other species we need to get through, we can get through there on foot and not get hung up in all the garbage and get cut up and scraped up.
They certainly do their job.
Yes, they do, and they do it well, and they enjoy it, and it beats us out there with a handsaw cutting brush, that's for sure.
So as everybody can see at home, these goats eat really well. So we've wound our way back around to conclude our tour. Let's talk about the staffing of this place, Jason.
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm the farm superintendent here. I have a staff of 2 full-time guys and a part-time guy that have all been here at least 15 years, and one gentleman's been here with us over 40 years working here at the facility. And then from the forestry standpoint, we have a full-time extension forester, Ron Raths, and he has a part-time guy that helps him with the woods projects. And then there's a staff of 4 down at the Diagnostic Lab that help with the ADDL side of things.
So in closing, how can people get involved, or if they want more information, what can they do?
You can look us up on the website. If you just go to Google and type in SIPAC, S-I-P-A-C, or Southern Indiana Purdue Ag Center, our website will come up, and kind of upcoming events and things are listed on that. Or our county extension office here in the county, Kenny Eck, kind of knows what's going on, is another place to touch base with us.
Well, Jason, we definitely appreciate you giving us this tour.
Enjoyed it.
This has been our tour of the Southern Indiana Purdue Ag Center, or SIPAC. We'll have more news right after this.